Hello, beautiful humans. Hi. Welcome to day 10 of my 10-day reset. I'm ZGALA, Gabrielle, Angel, Lily. All the names are mine. I own them. Just kidding. Kidding, not kidding. I'm in a playful mood today, I'm happy to say. I am noticing the things on my shirt in the camera. I have been enjoying this 10-day reset very much. It has been exactly what I needed, and I am happy to be sharing the process here live, as I have been every day. It's off the cuff, unscripted and unedited, sharing my experience as I go through my shadow mandala workbook project. So at the end of this, tomorrow, I will spend a day reflecting, and then I will be putting in some of the example artwork into my workbook that I've already pre-written most of. I'm just waiting for these examples, real world examples, to add to some of my AI generated formats, templates, and then I can give it to you. It will be published on Amazon as well, but I'm looking forward to using it as a tool in my community and in my own life, as I'm doing now. So there's a quick overview of what this is all about. And I set the intention to do a 10-day reset. I've been doing 3-day resets in my Human Reboot Dojo for a few months now, and that has been going relatively well. I'd love to have more people join us, but it has been great for me to set that container and do these regular resets, because knowing what we need to do and practicing is two different things. It's a lot like you can know that exercise and eating healthy is good for you, but unless you actually do it, it doesn't really do you any good. And the same is for self-mastery, emotional fitness, which is what I'm working on in particular with the Human Reboot Dojo. Although more broad scope, I'm working on human consciousness and living a fulfilling, creative life, and what I'm calling lately humaning. So this 10-day reset is something that I think I'm going to be doing seasonally. I think it's a great thing to bring back. And you've probably noticed there's a resurgence of fasting. I think we're all sort of feeling this sense of overwhelm due to overabundance. It's an interesting thing where we get this scarcity mindset about our time and energy because we're so overwhelmed with choices and information and things to consume that we're not giving our bodies a chance to rest and recuperate and integrate and reset, which is what I have been focused on a lot of last year, and what I'm bringing into 2026 is this idea of holding a safe space, creating containers, both physical and energetic, that people can come in and out of, step into and step out of safely while we practice the skills of coherence, up-leveling ourselves, becoming more of the people that we want to be, and building more of the systems, institutions, even lives that we want to build. As a mother and soon to be a grandmother, I'm coming from this framework of, or I try to return often to the idea of what kind of world, what kind of systems, what kind of thinking do I want to model and try to, I'm looking for exactly the right word and it's not coming to me, but you know, the way you want to sign your name on things when you're a teenager, or maybe when you're still a 40-year-old teenager, that rebellious side of us that wants to leave a mark and maybe carved initials into a tree or spray painted them somewhere. And still, like I sign my artwork in my journal, still, it's a similar impulse, I think, of the ego. But to use that as an example, we can try to leave a mark by, etching it into a tree, or we can try to leave a mark by creating businesses that have a positive impact on the future of humanity, or leaving, imparting civility and good manners to our children and our grandchildren so that they create civil societies going into the future. Or considering our environment, internal and external, when we're making decisions, and showing future generations how to do that in a way that works. Pardon me. Enough of that rambling, huh? So here is my 8-section, it's actually a 9-section mandala example. Now most of the way filled out. Now it's not, obviously not colored yet, and I probably will color it, but I made this one after I did this first one. And this first one I made with 9 sections purely because I was doing a 9-day mandala project. And in my workbook, I'm trying to demonstrate that it's really customizable. The whole idea is to make it a tool that works for you to get into your subconscious. So the archetypes that I chose and the framework that I chose was just what was working for me right now. And I give examples in the workbook, and I'm giving examples here, but you are always encouraged to adapt it and adjust it to make it your own and make it work best for you, because that's really the point of this self-mastery work. Requires the self to participate. So after I did the 9-section one, which was difficult to draw, I decided to do a more simple 8-section with a middle. So it's still 9 sections, but drawn differently. And while I did that, then I chose slightly different archetypes and questions, some of them the same, some different. Because again, as I'm going through this real time and making it valuable to myself, that's how it goes. So in this one, this is today, and I was exploring the archetype of the core, or the heart. This was yesterday. The wise elder, the old maid. This is the core, or the heart, day 9. And I only just sketched that in a little bit, but I was thinking about a similar thing that I was thinking about yesterday, which is this idea of shedding our old skin and stepping into this expanding sense of self. And at the same time, like letting go of the old layers of self. So there's this churning that happens, right? That I don't think I was quite getting at there, but I was thinking about how our perception is only so big. So we, like, if we expand, as we expand, we lose sight of the smaller aspects, or the more subtle aspects. And maybe that's what's been happening. And then if you turn around and put your focus on the more subtle, smaller aspects, you start to lose focus or big picture. And in a way, I feel like I'm trying to expand my capacity to hold an awareness of more at the same time, maybe, while also just getting better at focusing on one thing at a time. That could be an issue right there I've identified. Sounds like 2 things at the same time to me. This other one, I put day 9 in the core here. And sort of similarly, I found myself thinking about just actually started thinking about the sun and the rays, and I've been thinking about the differences between fusion and fission. And fusion, which is what creates the energy in the sun, which is a combining of things, is actually what's putting off, radiating so much heat and light that creates all of life as we know it. And that's a fascinating concept to me that I don't really have any conclusions about, except for that it makes me think about how skewed my idea, my perspective is when it comes to proportions. I was just listening to, I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, a little clip of him talking about the size, how the moon and the earth are depicted in textbooks gives us a very skewed perception of the distance between the two and the size relationship. And that if you were really to give a more anatomically correct depiction in a textbook, you would need like a fold out page to show that the moon is way over there in respect to the earth. And now consider how much further than that the sun is. And I think we just can't really fathom it, right? There's this, there's a real disconnect between the actual size and proportion of things and how our brain makes sense of things. I was just listening to one of my favorite coaches, Tom Bilyeu, in a clip right before I did this, and he was talking a similar vein of thought about how deceptive our brains are, how we're only perceiving like 0.006 or maybe some smaller fraction of the total amount of light data that's coming in, into our bodies, for example. And that's just one part, right, that we've been able to calculate. I imagine there's a lot more data than that in the world that we're not aware of. That's a concept I've tried to get at in my book, The Shift, which is behind me there on the shelf and available on Amazon. And I'm still having a hard time articulating it, but I think that knowledge, that our knowledge is so fallible and limited, and that we're making up so much of what we think is reality, is both like something to, like a warning, to something to be cautious about, and also something very inviting about it, something very freeing about it, because to me it means the potentials, the untapped potentials of this universe, the things that we don't know about yet, are so much more vast than the things that we do know about, that I can use that thought to put my own brain in its place as when I start to think limiting thoughts or feel like I am sure that I know my own limitations or someone else's limitations. This is a tricky thing that I've been really grappling with in my life, and is good. The shadow work is a good time to explore it a little bit, which is that tension between more open, limitless thinking, more abundant mindset, where we don't feel there's any limit to our growth or any limit to our potential resources, which I do think is actually how the universe is for all intents and purposes. And then at the same time, for all intents and purposes, there are limitations from any one given perspective. Like, as a aging woman in America with a finite amount of energy, it seems like And maybe, maybe I should stop right there and press pause and think, do I have a finite amount of energy, or am I just, yeah, I could say I'm certainly creating less energy at my disposal. I'm limiting my access to the amount of energy that even I can easily perceive with closed kind of thinking like that, where I'm thinking I have to be realistic, or I need to work within the confines of my perceived limitations. It's such an interesting duality, because I've spent a fair amount of time feeling resentful over my own unrealistic dreams, my tendency to indulge my own unrealistic dreams and then engage in risky behavior that has at times damaged my body, my mind, my spirit, my relationships. And yet, when I add it up, if I weigh it all and I think about regret, and I still, just yesterday, I think my overthinking brain was thinking about my student loans and my consolidations, because I was at first thinking, do I regret going to college and having all these student loans, because they are really a weight on me. But I was pretty quick to think, no, I don't regret that, because I enjoyed my education and allowed me to spend time with my son in a way that a lot of single mothers don't get to. And do I regret consolidation? Well, for one, there's just, regret is such a silly thing, right? Spending time now thinking about the past that I can't change. But also, even if I could, it's a silly thing to consider, really, because even something like that, or I could come up with even more dramatic examples, probably, that you might think, oh yeah, that would be something she might regret. But always I'm doing the best I can from where I am with what I have. And sometimes that might not look very good from the outside, but it is, it might not even look that good from the inside to me, but it's still, like, as evidenced by that's what I do the best I can. That said, I can take that and think, as I am during this reset, you know what? I want to do better moving forward. So I'm going to really uproot the weeds that are in my life that are no longer serving me, those things that are taking up time and energy, that I can identify as things that aren't moving me toward my goals and instead are getting in the way. Part of that is the clutter in my house, which I've been making slow progress on, but after this live stream, part of how I'm going to spend this day is a good chunk of time on that again. And of course, this time of end of year, New Year's, is a great time to use the extra momentum of humanity at large that's doing that, and the different schedules and days that are going on in many cases. I'm remembering something that I wanted to talk about, that I was thinking about in my reflections on the hero, the core, the heart of something, which is today's section of my Shadow Mandala workbook project. And I was thinking about how, again, this is a theme that's come up for me a lot, about how there's this prevalent idea in my mind that I should be working toward becoming the hero. And you'll hear me say in a lot of my content that I'm inviting you to step into your larger self, your expanded self, to expand your heart and your capacity. And you just heard me say in this video how that's what I feel like I'm working towards, and all that's true. And I also feel like in doing the shadow work and reflecting on what's underneath that, trying to get like in that, what I call the 7-layer dip, where I ask, why do I think that? And then answer, and then why do I think that? And answer again, and get like 7 layers under the first layer of question till I get to something that maybe surprises me or that I hadn't thought of before, or maybe it's something very familiar that I recognize as a pattern. And that is to appreciate not being the hero, to acknowledge that I'm worthy and lovable and enough as a normal, fallible, imperfect human being, and so are you. And I think that is such an important frame, not just to start from, but also to return to as we are human beings. And I think there's this tendency right now to want to polish off all the rough edges of things in videos and in artwork. And we have AI now to help us with that. And I love my AI assistants and my AI coach. And I have a lot more to say about that in the near future. But I also think that we would be wise to be careful not to over polish ourselves so much that we lose all sense of meaning, all sense of individuality, all sense of the fact that we are worthy of love and that we are enough, that we deserve to exist exactly as we are. Like, yes, part of how we are is that we have this internal drive toward more, this dopaminergic drive to expand and explore and get better. And I love that about us. And I'm not trying to diminish that or shame that in any way. But I think I've been using the symbol of a seesaw in my mind often to describe or to think about what I'm trying to get at here, which is that while our differences are important, and I think having two sides of an issue, having the yin and the yang, having, day and night, all of these aspects that counter each other, that seem to oppose each other at times, are necessary to highlight the other, to make the other meaningful. And so while on the one hand, we need both sides to be like expanding and exploring the extreme outer edges of the side. And again, if you think about the seesaw, like to be fun, you want to go high, you want to have like dramatic seesawing. It's fun that way. But you also want that balance. You want to be focused on that focal point, that center point. Always, it's like a tension between expanding outward and aiming back toward the center. That's, again, the best I can do at the moment with my symbolic representation of that thought. It's more nuanced than that, or maybe it's more simplistic than that in a way. Yeah, it has to do with like, how do we hold ourselves together as a civilization while also expanding into a new self. And it's related to this little symbol from yesterday that I tried to get at with the expanding heart as you're going through, as history is rhyming with itself and we're going through cycles of life that are sort of repeating patterns, but with little bit different nuances and differences. And we are having to step out of our old skins and leave behind aspects of our former self so that we can step into our more expanded selves. There's still a recapturing, a returning, a belonging ourselves back to our initial imprint, the core of who we are, which brings me, full circle conveniently to that hero core self, that heart, who we really are is related to light. It's related to the entire universe, and it's an ever evolving being, existing here and now, always moving forward, like always onward and upward type of energy, at least from my current perspective, subject to change. I'd love to know your thoughts on any of that. I know I enjoy rambling and soapboxing, as you probably could gather, but I also really do want to open more dialogue. I really do want to know what you're thinking, what thoughts went through your head as I was going through that, and if anything comes to mind that you care to share, please put that in the comments. I'm looking forward to putting together some more valuable content, a little more organized. I will be doing more live streams. I like the live streaming, and it keeps me in that real-time moment in a way that I enjoy. I am getting more stage and speaking coaching, so I expect that I will continue to improve my presence, my presentation, and like polish myself while also staying authentic and true to myself. That's my intention. I'm looking forward to interviewing some more, getting back to interviews this 2026 and hosting some events. And you can look forward to seeing and hearing more about that if you like and subscribe. I hope whatever you do that you are taking good care of yourself and that you enjoy a fantastic 2026. It's a new world and things are changing. So I hope you're getting a hold of the reins of your own life and ready for the ride. Yeah. I'll be seeing you soon. Ciao for now.